Morning everybody, Mark here. Just wanted to post a quick message about my experiences on Saturday just gone. I went to a missionary conference hosted at Redhill Baptist Church for the OMF, and it's the first missionary conference I've ever been to, and I was looking to get a feel for missionary work. I've had a calling for this for the last year or so. It's just getting stronger and stronger, so obviously it seems sensible to investigate this further. I've already been in touch with OMF about doing that, so I was invited to this event and went there, and it was very interesting. So just thought I would share some of my experiences there, some concerns, some problems, but you'll see at the end that it's no less diminished my desire. If anything, it strengthened it. So just wanted to share a few things. I'd made a lot of notes on this and wanted to read through some of them and just give you thoughts and feelings. So anyway, the church that we went to was Redhill Baptist Church. I had some problems with this church straight away when I arrived. I mean, it's a good church, so to speak. It's a big building, modern building. The thing that struck me when I arrived was they'd just been recently refurbished. They had a disabled lift, a seminar room, a main church room. They had a big kitchen, and up the top they had like a sports hall, and was pretty amazing, but does make you wonder where the money comes from that. So I'm guessing the offerings are pretty significant, so I'll let you dwell on that. Charismatic church, which I'm not comfortable with at all. I don't like all this worship band stuff and this acceptance of things like prophesying in tongues. I have a real problem with that. I wrote an article on that on my website, atheist-convert.co.uk. Go and read it, see what I think about things like tongue talking. I have some real concerns with that, so didn't particularly like the church, but I wasn't going to the church, so I was going to this conference. And this church itself physically was a great place to host a missionary conference. As I said, it had a seminar room and a main church, so there were lots of places to go and plenty of space. So there were some pluses there. Something I did notice about the church when I was there, and this was amongst the missionaries as well, I really didn't see many people carrying Bibles, which surprised me. The few Bibles that I did see were NIV, which is par for the course nowadays in most churches. I was definitely the only one carrying a King James Bible, and I was also the only one carrying it all the time. So I had it with me in my arms, like a baby or a expensive mobile phone. That's where my Bible was. I was holding it when I was singing. I took it with me to lunch. I never saw anybody else doing this, and I'm not saying that, oh, look at me, I'm perfect and great, but it just struck me as unusual. I mean, we should be travelling around with God's Word always with us, either in our heart or physically on our person. I mean, I have a Bible right here on my desk. I've got one in my car for when I go out. And I just thought I'd share that with you. It just seemed a little surprising. We're called to serve God, and that's like our operating manual, and we should be carrying that everywhere with us. Just a thought. A couple of notes as well. I heard the word community and global mentioned a lot. Now, I know in the context of missionary work that's an important thing to say, but I heard that in the worship prior to talking about missionary activity, and that's a theme of a lot of these modern churches, this whole community thing and global this and community that, and for me it's a little red flag. I'm not very comfortable with this whole kind of unification of churches. I mean, I have some opinions on that about the coming of the Antichrist. It's all a bit it's a bit high, but again, a couple of red flags, and wasn't very comfortable with that. However, the seminars were excellent. The only problem that I had with the seminars were there were 4 of them, and you could only choose 2 because of time limitations. So you had to choose between 1 and 2. So we got this program thing given to us, and it was called 3D Mission, hosted by the OMF. And as you see, I scrawled a lot of notes on this because I wanted to know what was going on, and I wanted to make informed choices. Now, I avoided the first one because it said global on it. I just didn't want to hear about, the world. I wanted to hear about specific examples of missionary work. So I sat down in a seminar called Meeting China's Children, hosted by 2 missionaries, a chap called Adam and his wife called Mim, heavily pregnant as well. They gave a really great presentation. I really enjoyed sitting and listening to their work. over in Xi'an, if I pronounce that right, in central China. Was really, really impressed with what they're doing out there and how they're living their life and what they're doing for Christ. And I was really encouraged by that. That was when I sat through that, I thought, I've made a great choice here. I really enjoyed that. The next one I sat on was, well, there were two choices. One was called Christianity 2100. I thought, not sitting in on that. And I sat down instead on one about missionary work in Uganda. It was a bit more community orientated and less about salvation and the message of Christ, and I didn't really enjoy that one so much, if I'm honest. I really enjoyed the one about China. This one, not so much. It just felt like it could have been done by a secular agency, you know, building water resources and stuff. And I know that's important. I'm not taking anything away from that, but it felt less about the message of Christ and the salvation of the cross than the first one. And then we had a question and answer panel after that, and that was good. We just wrote down a few questions on a piece of paper, handed it in, and they read them to the panellists, the people that had been giving all the seminars, and that was interesting. And then we had lunch, which was great. You know, they laid on some sandwiches and stuff, and as I said, the facilities were very good, to be fair, and that was good. And I got a chance to sit down actually with Adam and Mim, and just talk to them about their work and the troubles and challenges that they'd faced, and that was really good. So, you know, all in all, I enjoyed the experience. However, I did make a lot of notes about missionaries in general, and I wanted to share that here in this quick video, about things that I think are going right for missionaries, and things that I think are a problem. And as I said, it hasn't made me think, oh, I don't want to be a missionary. It's just caused me to reflect on it. And I want to share these with you and maybe gather your thoughts as well. So I'd be interested to see if you would post and comment appropriately. Excuse me. So I made some positive points and negative points. There's more negative, but it's how you interpret them that matters. So let me start with the positive points. Missionaries do great work, no question about that. That's just a fact. I was dead impressed with everything that we're doing there. Missionaries embed and immerse themselves in the country very well indeed. They learn the language and culture quickly and effectively, and that much is evident. Not everybody was speaking a foreign language, but most people at least tried to learn something, and they certainly embedded pretty well in the culture there, so very important, and I could see that clearly as well. Missionaries let natives take the lead once suitably equipped to do so, and I saw that as well. You know, they would quickly go in, but they would be hands off. And again, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think there's a mix of things. I mean, they certainly have to lead when they arrive, but the idea is that they step back once the local populace are able to, become pastors or ministers or leaders of whatever it is that's going on, and that seems to be happening and going well. And the last positive point, missionaries are leading people to salvation, but I've bracketed this and put albeit painfully slowly. They did talk about it. They didn't really say, we saved or we were involved in the salvation of 100, 200 or 1,000 people. It would be just a handful of people here and there. And I know one saved soul is worth the trip alone, but a little bit disappointed that it's happening, but not to a great scale. So again, it's positive that it's happening, but there's some question marks there. So I also wrote some negative points. Now I bracketed this into avoidable and unavoidable negative points. I'll start with the avoidable negative points, which I felt that they could do more on. And that was just a perspective on what I was hearing, and not just from the missionaries present, but also from just the general conversation around the church and with other people that were there. And I did notice on a couple of the videos that missionaries focused primarily, it seemed, on the character of Jesus, bypassing much of his purpose. Now what I mean by that is that they often talk about Jesus. There was a video that was played, and the Chinese Christians that were there were really talking about how they live like Jesus. So they're kind to people, they do this, they do that, they want to be an example. And it just occurred to me that I don't think that when missionaries are sharing the gospel, that they're saying, that Jesus is a role model. I mean, he is, but that's not the sole purpose for it. God didn't become manifest in the flesh to become a role model for people. This is about salvation, this is about coming to know him, This is about dealing with sin, Satan, and hell. Salvation. And I felt that message was missing. So I don't know if the missionaries are really pushing that part of it. It's more about the character. So again, take from that what you will. That's what I took. I put here, missionaries need a greater sense of urgency about them. And, from my perspective, I do feel that we're closing fairly rapidly on the end times. And I just never got a sense of that desperation and urgent need for salvation. I never really heard it. So, again, just me, but if I was there as a missionary, I'd be like, we've got to step up our efforts. We've got to do more, that kind of, attitude. And again, missionaries should have a self-imposed focus and desire on soul winning and salvation. This is a great burden to bear. Again, if I was to be a missionary, my primary purpose would be to bring souls to Christ. I don't want people to go to hell. That's my sole motivation for doing this. I understand there's some factors around how we witness and share, but that's the end goal. I don't want to go and say, hey, look, Jesus was this and that, and you need to be more like that. It's about salvation, and I think sometimes that just gets forgotten. Missionaries clearly need more funding, support and encouragement. We should be receptive to their prayers, that they should not have to need to ask us. We should be ahead of their need. We should be asking them first. And again, sometimes I think that we just assume that they're taken care of. Missionaries, they need our help and support, so we should be doing it. And that's something that I think that's avoidable, and that's the body of Christ. We should be doing everything to support them, even if we're not well off. We should be at least encouraging them. In fact, I'm going to send an email to Adam and Mim, who were at the conference, and offer some support and encouragement there, just to let them know that they're on my mind. And again, going back to the sort of urgent desperation and need, I've said here, missionaries, instead of showing an active zeal, appear fairly passive. I would have loved to have seen real fire from them. The people that were there, I never saw them on fire for Christ, for having that burning passion to share the gospel, for salvation. It just felt like it was good, but it didn't feel like it had that real kind of, we need to be doing something. I never got that impression. And again, red flag on this one. One pair of missionaries indicated they attended a Bible college for a year before attending mission. Personally, I don't see such education as being necessary, and neither actually did the CIM-OMF founder, Hudson Taylor. In his book, he mentions often that it's not important. It's useful, but it's not important, and it shouldn't be the starting block or a stumbling block. And again, some missionaries I spoke to, even after living for many years in the country, are not yet fluent. I would expect them to be fluent after 4 years, for example. So I was surprised. I mean, again, and this was an area that wasn't English speaking. So, take from that what you will. Nearly running out of time here. But unavoidable negative points. Nowadays, as missionaries, business has to go hand in hand with missionary work. It's unavoidable. You have to do some business to get you in that country. China's a great example of that. You can't just go as a missionary, it's impossible. There's also an element of community outreach required in order to engage with the local populace. It's necessary. You have to be able to reach out, so you have to do something for the community. I don't particularly like that so much, but I understand its need, and it is unavoidable, so you will need to do things. So I get that, and it's necessary. So really, I just wanted to finish by saying that I did learn a lot from it. I did enjoy it. It was important to go there. I learned a lot about a lot of things. I learned a lot about charismatic churches. I learned a lot about missionary work. I learned a lot about what's good about it and what's working. And I learned a lot about what I don't think is working and what I don't think that they're doing. And it's not really a criticism. It's just, there's some thinking that has to be done about this. And for me personally, and I believe that for all Christians, the real burden should be on salvation, on bringing people to Christ, because we don't want them to go to hell. I can share the role model of Jesus with anybody, but it's not going to save them. If I tell someone, you have to be good and be nice and so on, and, Jesus wasn't like that. He had righteous anger. You only have to look at what he did in the temple with, his cord of whips and stuff. We need to have this kind of zeal and passion for missionary work. So anyway, coming close to the end of this video, just wanted to say that I enjoyed it, I'm excited, and I still very much want to enter the missionary field. So thanks very much for watching. Would like to hear your comments. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.